So what were you doing in 2011? Barack Obama was president. The city of Detroit had not declared bankruptcy yet. The number one song was Moves Like Jagger by Maroon 5 with special guest Christina Aguilera. And on the corner of I-375 and Gratiot, there was a ceremony for the groundbreaking of a huge, new Wayne County jail. The past, present, and future of that site, including the plans for a new University of Michigan Innovation Center, is the focus of your Daily Detroit. It's episode 368 of the podcast for October 31st, 2019. I'm Jer Stays. Wayne County's correction system has been dogged by problems for many years, and a new jail was supposed to help fix it for a cost of $220 million. That was supposed to be done in 2014. You can guess what didn't happen next.
Well, we've uncovered about $1.6 million in change orders. Though
3 years ago, the county approved plans to build a brand new jail downtown to consolidate 3 other jails. It was supposed to cost around $220 million, but it started running over budget. The scope of the project had to be pared down, but even with changes, it could cost a staggering $390 million.
This indictment coming down just a few minutes ago out of Wayne County Circuit Court. It stems from the failed Wayne County Jail project and involves 3 current and former Wayne County appointees.
Years later, the site visible to everyone coming down the freeway for work, or Lions or Tigers games, had a half-built concrete hulk, an embarrassing monument to government waste, corruption, and mismanagement. It got a name that's uniquely Detroit, the failed jail. The moribund Motor City couldn't even get a jail right. And as it sat, the county paid $1.2 million a month in debt service and security. The former Wayne County executive that this happened under, Robert Ficano, lost his office. Through numerous legal investigations that didn't catch him specifically, but plenty of people who worked for him, voters had enough and he only got 6% of the vote in 2014. That was the year, if you remember, the jail was supposed to be complete. Instead, it turned into a $500 million taxpayer-funded albatross, leering over Detroit's nascent comeback. The site sat in limbo for years. Too much money in it to stop, too little money available to finish it right, and red tape, fits, and starts. I've been around for 20 years, so this wasn't surprising. Up until a few years ago, Detroit's development scene has been a long list of false hopes and BS press releases from people with more dreams than money. But with the arrival of Quicken Loans and Dan Gilbert, there was a new fire lit. He proved through a series of projects that you in fact can get stuff done in Detroit. One of the things I heard Gilbert say as part of an event a few years ago, and I had a chance to talk with him when he first came to town at a conference, is that spreadsheets tell you what happened, but they can't tell you what's ahead. Regardless of what you think of the billionaire class, that's a level of vision this city doesn't usually see. After all, you think Kwame Kilpatrick was bad? That isn't even the beginning. A council member named Kay Everett accepted bribes with such valuable items as 17 pounds of sausage in the early 2000s. Our leaders sold out our city for smoked meats. Detroit's history since the 1700s is littered with stories like this. So millions of dollars of grift from our city, county, or their cronies, well, it should always be watched for. In 2017, Gilbert offered a land swap where his company would take over building the jail for a set price, eat the cost overruns, at the time with the idea to make room for a new Major League Soccer stadium. Sure, there were important critics and questions to be asked, but most people in the public were done and just didn't want a jail at the door of downtown. I mean, how Instagram-worthy would have it been if the first thing you saw, say you came down for an interview for your new job, was a big prison right off the freeway? It's the stuff of cynical t-shirts sold at dive bars to tell people you visited Detroit. Now, things have changed. There is no soccer stadium planned, but there is a new $533 million criminal justice complex, including not just a jail, but offices for the sheriff and prosecutor staff, criminal courthouse, and juvenile detention facility. That will rise at Warren and I-75, a mile and a half down the road. What's next for the failed jail site at Gratiot and I-375? Well, that's after the break. Thanks to our members on Patreon that make episodes like this one possible, like Chris and Rick, who joined us this week. Algorithms that power sites like Facebook don't tell you what's important or in-depth. They promote stories for emotional reaction, to outrage you and to get you to stay on their site. But if you want to be connected to your community and know what's really going on, support independent media that answers to you and is based here. Join us as a member at patreon.com/dailydetroit. That's patreon.com/dailydetroit. And thank you. It's raining, but there's a giant tent with a see-through roof on the muddy Gratiot site. You can see the towers of Greektown Casino and other buildings through it. As always with these events, some sort of Motown plays in the background, and a list of politicians and business folks takes the stage to talk in front of beautifully curated photos of Gilbert projects and buildings in Detroit. It's as if, at least in the Instagram version of Detroit, we've already come back. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan told the crowd the story of wooing billionaire Detroit native Stephen Ross, who's crucial for this project. He's a huge supporter of the University of Michigan and owns the NFL's Miami Dolphins.
4 years ago, I flew out to New York and sat down with Stephen. I think, you do all this stuff for other world. It's time to come home. And he says, Mike, you got to be realistic about investment climate. And so he gave me a lecture about investment climate. This is the way my life went. But I wasn't discouraged. So 3 years ago, I went out to New York. I saw him again. And said, Stephen, you got to think about coming home. He says, that investment environment in Detroit, it's coming back. He says, I'm going to seriously start to look. And I said, well, good. So 2 years ago, I flew out. I said, Stephen, it's time. He says, I'm going to do something. I said, great. Whatever it is, your reputation will be great. He says, no. I'm not just going to do a project. He says, I promise you I'm looking around, but I'm not going to do something until I have something really big. And I thought, oh, God, this guy's putting me off again. A year ago, I was getting ready to go see him again. And the phone rings. And it's Stephen Ross. He says, Mike, I got an idea, and it's really big. And when he laid out for me the vision of building this kind of a center to provide these kinds of educational and career choices for Detroiters growing up here, right in their own city, it's an institution so prestigious it could help attract businesses from around the country, particularly in the auto tech field, to locate here, I was just in awe.
Ross's uncle is a name longtime Detroit watchers would know, Max M. Fisher. He's the Fisher that made his money through oil reclamation and sold his company to Marathon. He made the Max M. Fisher Music Center possible and paid for the schooling for Stephen Ross.
But what's really important to me being here, I know that before I went to New York, I had a conversation with my late uncle, who was very instrumental and really a great lover of Detroit, Max Fisher. And I told him, I asked him what he thought about me going to New York, because I really loved Detroit. But I was single and had a lot of other attractions moving to New York. I thought they'd be, and he said, well, if you go there, you'll never come back. And I made a promise to him. I said, I promise you I will come back. Now, it took me 50 years to come back, but I mean, I've lived up to that promise, and I really think that the Detroit that he envisioned, the Detroit that we all, those of us who grew up here, saw and loved, and how important of a city it was to America, I think it will be again. And I was educated. I'm now ready to come back and use what I've learned to really participate in that.
So what is this $300 million innovation center, as part of what could be a $750 million plus campus, going to actually look like? Well, there's a lot planned. The land could include residential towers, incubator space for businesses. The old Detroit police headquarters would become part of a hotel and conference center nearby. After all, business leaders are clear that downtown Detroit needs more hotel space. The cornerstone of the new campus is a modern building with sweeping lines reminiscent of a tail fin from a car of yesteryear. Inside the 190,000 square foot structure will be automotive mobility, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data science, financial tech, and sustainability programs. About 1,000 students could be on the campus. It would be inspired by Cornell Tech on Roosevelt Island in New York City. The idea is that if top talent is educated here, there's a better chance that they'll stay here. The Innovation Center brings senior and graduate level programs from the University of Michigan to Detroit, just blocks from where the school was founded in 1817. There's still more we don't know. We don't have exact dates for everything. Not all the money is raised yet, but heavyweights are lining up. Ross is going to make sure the project gets to the finish line, but hasn't disclosed how much money he's going to throw in. Gilbert is behind the project too. Bill Ford Jr., head of Ford Motor Company, has been a big booster of this project as well. That trio gives you a strong reason to believe that this is going to happen, close to how it's been pitched. So sure, this is big news in Detroit, but what does this mean for Wayne County and the rest of the region? I caught up with Wayne County Executive Warren Evans to talk about it. So it's clear that there's going to be a lot of benefits for Detroit, but you're the county executive. A lot of my listeners are going to wonder, like, okay, so why does this matter to me in Livonia or Dearborn or Canton or whatever? Why does that matter to the rest of the county?
Because we're a region, and as the region grows, so do the other communities. We do a tremendous amount of economic development work all throughout the county. It just so happens that this became the place that Stephen Ross wanted to come and build his satellite. Why? We all should support it. We're not paying for it financially. I mean, it's not going to be a taxing burden on other Wayne County residents. And so I think people have to start thinking more regionally about everything, whether it's this, transit, whatever. It's not always what's good for my local community, but what's good for the whole area. And if it brings business and commerce and people here, there will be residual benefits for those communities.
There was a lot of talk on stage about the idea of having kind of like on-ramps and ways for people in the community who aren't necessarily right now in like the U of M pipeline to benefit from this. Do you have any idea what that kind of looks like and the process to build that as the rest of this project's coming together?
That's what we've got to figure out over the next, months, but clearly that's where we're trying to go. Is this institution, even for community college kids, ought to be something that they can look at, feel some connection to, be motivated about, and inspired to get there. And as long as it does that, it's going to be great for everybody. To the extent that it doesn't do that, then we're losing an opportunity, and we're going to try to make sure we don't lose any opportunities here.
Ann Arbor, where the University of Michigan is based, has a median household income of more than $61,000 and is about 70% white. Detroit is 80% plus black and a household income of just over $26,200. From my conversations on background, it was clear that there's a realization among leaders that this has to be more than just more white tech dudes on scooters. It has to have an impact that touches longtime Detroiters. It's going to be interesting to see what they propose to actually make that happen. The Big Block M will be raised at Gratiot and I-375 soon. It'll be an interesting couple of years for all of us as this project rises from the ground. With that, I'm Jer Stays. Thanks for listening to Your Daily Detroit. A quick shout out to our editor Cheyenne Nocerini. It's her birthday, so she's off today. And Sven Gustafson, who's behind the scenes working on a show about the merger of Fiat Chrysler and Peugeot. And of course, thanks to our members at patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Take care of each other, and we'll see you in an awesome costume around Detroit. Happy Halloween.